Hello everyone, welcome back. The date is December 27th, 2020, and you likely haven't seen a lot of me for the past while. I mentioned that I was taking a break from YouTube to recharge, but here I am 3 days after shooting my last video in front of a camera again. I decided that during this break, I can finally put some time and effort into what I would consider the weakest part of my guitar playing, speed and technique. This video is me documenting that process. I haven't actively worked on my technique since I want to say my third year of music school, which was about 10 years ago. I certainly haven't advanced my speed since then. I may have even slightly regressed. Now, in my career, I haven't really found this to be much of a hindrance. There's always ways of cheating around those seldom fast passages I've needed to play. And besides that, the music I make doesn't require million-mile-an-hour speed. However, it would be a nice tool to have in the toolbox. Even though I'm sure I'll never get to the level of the Malmsteens or the Steve Vais of the world, this is something that I'd like to work on, and I figured this was a good time to do it because it doesn't require a lot of creativity. You just sit down and do the work. So here's the plan. Today, I'm gonna run some exercises to show you where I'm currently at with my speed. I'll do weekly updates with these exercises, talk about what I worked on, what I learned, and hopefully we'll see some progress. I'm optimistic that by the time my beard has grown back, we'll see some change for the better. Okay, let me show you the exercises that I'm gonna use as the test for my comparison point. There are a lot of things that you can work on with technique. I'm gonna focus on alternate picking because I think that that is what I could use most in the music I make. The test is fairly simple. First, I'm gonna play 4 chromatic notes ascending on each string until I get to the top, where I'm gonna go up a fret and then descend down that same pattern. I'll then repeat this with the patterns that use 3 notes per string, and then I'll do it again with the patterns that use 2 notes per string. I'll do this first at 110 beats per minute, then 120, 140, and then finally 160 beats per minute. This is very much an exercise. It won't sound overly musical, but it should give us a good glimpse at where I'm at with my alternate picking. Here is the test in its entirety at 110 beats per minute. Okay, I would say 110 beats per minute is right about where my threshold is right now. I can play that pretty well, not perfectly. I'm sure to many of you out there, you can do that way faster, but that's a snapshot of where I'm at, and that's why I'm working on this. Let's move on to 120 beats per minute, and I think from now on, I'll just show you a snippet of the exercise. You don't need to see me play this 4 times every week, especially as it gets faster and worse. Anyway, here's 120 beats per minute. At that speed, there were points when it felt okay, but there were also times it felt totally out of control. I would maybe just give myself a passing grade for that. I felt myself tensing up. It didn't feel comfortable. My hope would be that after practicing this for a month or so, that would be significantly better. But anyways, let's move on to 140 beats per minute. Okay, so this is way faster than I can play. It's getting ugly, but we're gonna try 160 either way. So that is clearly well beyond anything I can play. I don't expect that I'll be able to play at that speed anytime soon, but it's a good test to have in there regardless. I guess now I gotta get to work. I will talk to you guys again in a week. Welcome back. It is now January 3rd. I've just finished my practice for today and I've officially put a week into working on my chops. I've been fairly diligent with this, but let's take a look at what my schedule's been like this week. If you average it out, I put about an hour and a half into working on this stuff every day. However, there was one day, January 1st, where I did nothing, and that was because I got a little wound up with the boys on a FaceTime call on New Year's Eve and was in no place to practice the next day. There were a number of little revelations that I had over the last week that kind of determined how I've been practicing. I suspect that this video update will be the longest because from here on out, I'll probably just be working on the same stuff. First of all, I realized that one of the things holding back my speed is the lack of synchronicity between my two hands. So I found out that if I play steady 16th notes at 140 BPM without changing the note, I can do that fairly comfortably. Or if I did chromatic hammer-ons at that same speed, only picking the first one, I could do that fairly comfortably as well. However, if I tried to do those two things together, picking those chromatic notes, it would fall apart. So I did some problem solving and realized that I was using a different technique when I was playing single notes than if I was fretting notes. This shouldn't be the case. The motion should be exactly the same. I don't know when or why I developed this habit, but it's one of the things I've been working on changing. One of the many exercises I was doing to work on this was setting my metronome fairly quick and then doing 3 beats of single notes and 1 beat of that ascending chromatic line, making sure that I was using the exact same technique for the entire bar. It sounds like this. I've also realized that my stamina with speed isn't great, but I can get in small, fast bursts. So for example, if I again set my metronome to 140 beats per minute, I still can't go up and down the neck using that 4-note chromatic pattern. However, if I use 8th notes on one string and then do 16th notes on the next string, I can do that fairly decently. Check it out. With this, I've been gradually increasing the difficulty, doing 1 string, 8th notes, then the next 2 strings with 16th notes, like this. I believe that this method of slowly making things incrementally more difficult is essential to improvement, and it's been something that I've been trying to incorporate in all elements of my practice. I've also been trying to isolate things that are giving me issues and create exercises that focus on those. For example, I find it's way easier to play something on 1 string than using multiple strings. So to work on this, I would go up 3 chromatic notes, then jump up to the next string, go back down, repeat, but when I go back up, I would go to the next finger until I'd used all my fingers. Again, alternating between 8th notes and 16th notes, it would sound like this. I found that by alternating between these slow and fast speeds, it not only is helpful for the stamina side of things, but it also allows me to analyze my motions at a slow speed, trying to be as efficient as possible, and then I'll try to duplicate that motion when I'm playing fast. These are some of the general principles I've been incorporating into my practice. I haven't been on any specific routine or anything like that. Instead, I'll just come up with something, work on that for a while, and move on to something else. Has it been working? Let's do the speed test. Today, I'm gonna start at 120 beats per minute. I don't feel like I need to do 110 again. If I could do it last time, I can do it this time. Here's 120. I feel more comfortable with this than I did last week. It's still not perfect, but I'm glad to see that things are moving forward. Here's 140 beats per minute. So still a lot of work to go there, but now the difference is it kind of resembles what it's supposed to sound like versus being an absolute total mess. I'm not going to do 160 beats per minute today. I tried it. It sounds exactly the same as it did before. No need to subject you guys to that again. My plan for the coming week is kind of just do more of the same, see where that goes. However, I did reach out to some fellow YouTubers as all this is pretty new to me, and it's always great to get some pointers from musicians that you admire. So to wrap up this diary entry, let's see what tip my friend Pete Thorne has for me. He's a world-class session guy. He's got a great YouTube channel. He's got a resume that would impress anyone, and I'm sure he has some great wisdom. Take it away, Pete.
What's up, YouTubers? It's Pete Thorne. Hey, my friend Samurai Guitarist asked me to talk a little bit about speed. So the number one thing that I can say is that minimal motion as you get faster and faster is really important. So that goes for both the left hand and the right hand. So like for instance, if you're doing like a tremolo picking like a la Eddie Van Halen up say the high E string or something, with the guitar through an amp, it would sound like this. That kind of thing. With the guitar off, when I'm playing that, it's not that. It's that. It's just the very tip of the pick is the only thing touching the string. Because you don't need, especially with high gain, you don't really need all that aggression coming out of your right hand. When you're playing fast and picking, just the very tip of the pick touching the string will give you enough positive, action into the string in order to make the note jump out. And obviously, if you've got less surface area of the pick kind of scraping on the string and stuff like that, going back and forth, you're going to be able to go quicker. Thanks so much, Samurai Guitarist. You guys take care.
All right, I'm now 2 weeks into my training regimen, and this week I spent some time comparing my technique against some guitarists whose speed I really admire, and there's one major conclusion that I came to. There is no one correct way of playing guitar. Rather, you gotta find your natural motion and do your best to make it as efficient as possible. Let's check out some video clips and I can show you how I came to this conclusion. Here's a video of Gypsy Jazz great Borelli Legren, and if you look at his right hand technique, he's got a closed fist. He's using a fair bit of power and economy picking. Everything he plays is perfectly clean and incredibly fast. On the other hand, here's a video of Yngwie Malmsteen, who has an open grip. He is anchoring his hand down with his ring and pinky finger. Very fluid, efficient, totally effortless, but it looks completely different than Borelli. And now let's compare that with Pat Metheny, who uses this weird, totally unorthodox claw-looking technique. I think he's holding onto his pick with his 3 or 4 fingers, and his thumb and his hand kind of floats around in space, but it works perfectly well for him. My point here is that everyone has a different body, and it doesn't make a ton of sense to try to adopt somebody else's guitar technique when you're working with different equipment. Now, this is good news for me because at this point in my life, I don't want to do a massive overhaul of how I play guitar. That is more than I want to put into this. Instead, I believe that I'm better off taking what I've been naturally doing all these years and just refining that. So that's kind of my theory on technique and comparing your technique to other people's. Let's move on to the fitness test. We will start off today at 120 beats per minute. At this point, I'm feeling pretty comfortable here. Let's move up to 140. It's not perfect, there's some issues with precision, and my stamina's still not great, but I feel like there's a fairly big difference between what I can do now and what I could do 2 weeks ago, which is a really nice feeling considering I've put a pretty serious effort into this. But last for today, let's do 160 beats per minute. Even sloppily getting halfway through the first part of that exercise is new ground for me. If I can do that relatively cleanly by the end of all this, I would be absolutely thrilled. But that's it for today. I've got another tip for you, this time coming from my friend Paul Davids, who is one of the most respected and talented guitarists on this platform. Let's see what Paulie D has to say about playing fast.
Sammy G, what's up? I hope you're well. So here's my 30-second quick tip for playing fast. One thing that really helped me is the realization that there's multiple modes of playing guitar. One is where you very accurately synchronize between left and right, each and every note. And this is, I guess, something you do already. Each note is synchronized. But now, when you pick up the pace, it's just way too fast to synchronize each and every note. So what you want to do is decrease the synchronization points to maybe once every 3 notes. When you're playing triplets, for example, like this. Now I'm just focusing on that first note that falls on time. And then I'm just playing 3 notes with left, 3 notes with right. And you can try that like playing scales as well. The same goes for sweeping. I hope that helps.
All right, I'm back with the 3-week update on my little experiment here. I'm still going strong with my practicing. I've also found that recently I've naturally fallen into a bit of a routine when it comes to how I work on this stuff. It's not like there's a regimented set of exercises that I'm doing, but rather there are just certain patterns that I always seem to follow. If you're interested in the details of this, I'll release some documentation outlining my specific methods over at my Patreon page at patreon.com/samuraiguitarist. But what I want to do today is look at how one's equipment can affect one's speed. Assuming that your guitars are all set up well, the only thing that I've really found to have any bearing on speed is your choice of pick. So I've gathered a small assortment of picks that I had lying around. I'm going to test each one and give you my thoughts on how these might impact speed. First of all, I've got the green Dunlop 1.5mm Crocodile or Alligator. I'm not really sure. This has been my go-to pick for over a decade. If it turns out that I like any of these other picks more, I may switch over. But anyways, here is something fast, played with this pick. So that's my reference point. I'm going to be comparing everything against this pick. Let's try out the pointy Jazz 3, which is many a guitarist's favorite pick. Let's give it a whirl. I like the raised logo on it. It offers a nice grip to keep it from sliding around. However, the pointiness is too pointy for me. The sharp end feels like it catches on the strings, which I feel like slows me down. I will not be switching over. Next up, I'm going to try out a heavy Fender celluloid pick. Let's see how it goes. I actually used these for years before I switched over to the Crocodiles. I like the shape, I like the tip on them, but it has no grip and I find it just slips around way too easily. It also seems too thin for me now. Playing with a thicker pick makes me feel like I have more control over my strings, which makes me feel like I can play faster. I also remember that back in the day, I would go through these things like crazy. They would wear down very fast, so I will not be switching back to that one. Next, we've got the Firefly pick, which flashes when you play it. Here's how it sounds. I love the novelty of it, but the electronics inside just make it too big and clunky to use regularly. But I mean, come on. How cool is that? Moving on, we have the Metal Tech pick. Frank Zappa used a metal pick. Eddie Van Halen used a metal pick. Let's see how she goes. There's actually a lot I like about this. It's got a unique sound. The size and the stiffness are great for playing fast. However, I absolutely cannot stand how the pick feels against the strings. It's a nails on chalkboard type of thing. I won't be switching over to these. However, I could see myself using this if I want that specific sound. Moving along, we have the triangular Tortex Dunlop pick. It's a thin one coming in at 0.5mm. Let's give her a whirl. I don't like the sound of it. It's way too flimsy. It's like playing your guitar with a piece of paper. I do enjoy strumming acoustic guitars with these thin picks, but definitely not for anything else. And last for today is the Gravity Striker Big Mini 1.5mm. This would be the closest to what I currently use. I actually really like this one. The slight point feels nice and precise. The smooth material feels like it has less friction than my normal picks, which kind of makes it feel like it's faster. However, I don't know that I could ever get used to the shape of it, and I do prefer the darker sound on my typical picks. But of everything I've tried today, this would be the one that I would switch over to. My takeaway is that the best pick, purely for playing fast, would be smooth, thick, with a slight point and a raised grip. However, I would recommend that you get a bunch of picks and try this for yourself. I will say I can't imagine myself switching picks this late in the game. I've been playing these for so long that anything else just feels weird to me. And besides, I just bought a massive bag of them, so I'm kind of committed at this point. But anyways, let's move on to the weekly speed test. Here is my exercise at 140 beats per minute. Feels a bit better than last week. Here's 160 beats per minute. Still a fair bit of room for improvement on that one. I'm not sure I can perfect that by the time I'm done this video, but I do feel like it's getting better every time I do this. And that's that. I'll leave you today with another tip. This one comes from my friend Rudy Ayoub, who, while well known for his memes and musical skits, is also truly a phenomenal guitarist who has world-class chops. Let's see what he has to say.
So a lot of people think that speed comes from, moving your hands fast at the same time. which is true, but a lot of it comes from knowing where to throw your fingers, right? So you can't just... I compare this to maybe driving to a place you've never driven before, you're using GPS, and then the second time you drive there, you don't use GPS, third time it's just autopilot, right? Now imagine driving there every time while learning to drive, while using GPS, while learning how to hold the steering wheel. It's not gonna work, right? So it helps a lot to know what options the fretboard gives you, right? So let's take, for example, 3 notes. Let's do A major triad. So you can play it right here, you can play it on the octaves. You can make it easy for yourself and play all of this in one box position, right? And you can also play this on the A string, right? This is the sweeping shape that everybody knows. And you can connect all these shapes together, right? You could play it a bit cleaner than me though. Yeah, but anyway. That's it.
All right, this is the 5th diary entry after 4 weeks of working on my chops, and it would appear that my beard has grown back. It's nice to have a familiar face looking back at me in the viewfinder. I've decided that next week is going to be the final chapter in this story, and as this all starts to come to an end, I've been thinking about what effect this practicing has had. It should come as no surprise that I've seen a fair bit of improvement. Hard work and practicing, turns out, does in fact work. While what I do here is centered around music, I spend a lot more time scripting, editing, sitting here talking to a camera than I normally do playing guitar. So sitting down every day and playing for an hour to an hour and a half is something that I haven't done for years. And having done that for 4 weeks now, it feels like my hands are in shape. It's not only easier to play things fast, it's just easier to play anything. This got me wondering what has been happening in my brain and my body over this time period to account for this change. I did some research into this, and it's actually pretty interesting. Now let it be known, before I share with you my findings, that I am not a neurologist, clearly, so I am deeply unqualified to talk on this subject. I'm just trying to share with you the best theories that I could find. I'm also going to attempt to draw out some of these concepts. I'm a terrible drawer, so this whole segment might be a total mess, but here goes. Okay, so in my head, I've got a brain. Within my brain, there are nerve fibers and fat. For my brain to make my body do stuff, it sends information down my spinal cord along more nerve fibers that go to the muscles all throughout my body. So what's happening when I repeat a motion over and over again, or practice? For this, we need to look closer at the brain. The nerve fibers in my brain are called axons and are wrapped with a fat called myelin. The theory is that as I practice, that fatty myelin sheath gets thicker. When there's more fat insulating these axons, there's less energy loss when my brain sends electrical signals along them to my muscles. This, therefore, allows me to perform actions more efficiently the more I've practiced. So the gist of it is, practicing makes my brain get fatter, which makes me play guitar better. Let's see if my brain has gotten any chunkier this week. Here's the speed test at 140 beats per minute. I'm feeling pretty good here. I mean, there could always be some polishing, but this seems like a speed that I can now play at. Let's move on to 160. I'm not sure that there's much of an improvement here since last week. I feel like I've kind of hit a plateau at this speed. It's still a fair bit out of my reach, and I suspect that any improvements at 160 will be slow and steady from here on out. But let's wrap it up here. Today's tip comes from my friend Dovidos, who I swear out of all YouTube musicians, he plays the most gigs out of any of us. But besides that, he's an excellent guitar player, great singer, and he has serious chops. Let's see what he has to say about them.
Take your hand, take your picking hand, and shake it. Can you shake it? Just like very relaxed shake. If you can do that, you can play fast. You can play like Yngwie, okay? Take that, relax, anchor it, different hands, different positionings. I know, we're not gonna get into that. And walk, and then sprint, and as soon as it gets too tight, something hurts, or you're like too tight, then start walking again, and then sprint. And repeat that on your daily exercise routine until you can sprint easily on demand. shake. That's the shake.
The date is January 31st, and this will be the final installment in this video. I started this experiment on the 27th of December, throwing a handful of missed practice days, and today will officially complete my 30-day challenge. I'm going to start off today with the speed test. I'll then discuss the results and give you some of my thoughts regarding this journey. I'm feeling pretty good at 140 beats per minute, so this time I'm going to bump it up to 145. I'd say that this speed now feels to me like what 120 beats per minute felt like a month ago. Let's do 160 beats per minute. Considering I was completely incapable of playing at this speed when I started this adventure, I'd say that this is a fairly remarkable improvement, even if it's still not quite perfect. So now that this is coming to an end and I put 30 days into this, let me tell you about some of my thoughts regarding this quest for greater guitar speed. First of all, I feel like I got way faster on my instrument. Bumping up my point of comfort 25 beats per minute in a month to me seems substantial. It felt really good to improve a guitar, something I haven't done for years, and on top of that, the bonus is that everything I play now just kind of feels easier. But a weird thing has happened as I've gone through this. I know that these results would have made me from a month ago ecstatic, but I can see how working on guitar speed is kind of like chasing a dragon. Part of me isn't satisfied. There are a lot of guitar players out there who can play way faster than I can, and the competitive side of me has already forgotten about the progress that I've made and wants to now get one step closer to that elite level. However, I'm guessing that even if I made that next step, I would still feel the same way. Does this mean that I'll keep working on this stuff? I don't really know yet. I certainly won't be doing it at the same intensity. It's a time commitment, and as I start getting back to regular YouTube videos, there's only so much time I have to put into things like this, and I think I would rather spend that time writing my own music or learning music from my favorite artists, but we'll see. One of my biggest takeaways from this experience is that I now feel like it's possible to get chops like the guitarist that I've always admired. For a while, I felt like I was just physically incapable of reaching certain speeds. Playing fast isn't some magical thing that some people are born able to do while others aren't, but rather you just gotta spend a lot of time on it. I can only imagine what I could do if I spent a year practicing like this. I pulled out some old practice schedules I was using years ago, and I realized that I've spent very little time working on technique, which explains why I'm not very good at it. I kind of wish that I had done this work back then and just had the skill set now. But I was practicing to my capacity back then. I would have needed to sacrifice the time that I spent on ear training or improv or something like that, and I'm not sure I would make that trade. It's the same idea as I don't really know how much time I want to spend on this stuff going forward, because I'm not sure that being able to play significantly faster helps me realize my bigger artistic goals as a musician. Ultimately though, I'm glad I did this. It was a nice break from my normal routine, and it's fun to have a new tool to work with. So to wrap this up, I'm going to try out my speed. Here's a track at 170 beats per minute with some parts that are significantly faster than anything I could have played a month ago. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. That is how I got way faster on guitar over the course of 30 days. Remember, if you'd like a detailed guide as to how I did this, I've got a practice routine with exercises and tips that I didn't mention in this video over at my Patreon page. Besides that, I offer a number of rewards like early access to videos, backing tracks, and the like. The support of my patrons allows me to take on bigger projects like this, and it's an important part in what I do. If you'd like to get involved, find more over at patreon.com/samuraiguitarist. Thank you all for watching, and an extra big thank you to Paul, Pete, Dovidas, and Rudy for the advice. If you'd like to check out their channels, I've got some links in the description. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for a wide range of musical content. And if you'd like to check out another video like this one, hit that link up there. Until next time, I'm Samurai Guitarist, and I'll see you again soon.